Hello, all you happy innovators out there. How you doing, huh? My happies, my HIs. How are you guys doing today? Felt a little inspired to kind of grab that microphone and do a little bit of talking today. I'm sure that all of you by now that are listening to this podcast have heard, the rumors, the stories about Elvis Presley, still being alive, still being spotted all over the world, and by now it's kind of become like a mark, a laughing point for people. It's like the cover of Star magazine, spots Elvis again somewhere, working at a delicatessen in Nairobi, and like I said, it's laughable, it's become something that's laughable. But I don't know about you, okay, but there's a part of me that really wonders sometimes if somebody like Elvis may actually still be alive. And as kooky as that sounds, as crazy as that sounds, sometimes I think of it from a practical business perspective, okay? Now, hear me out. It's probably true, okay? It's probably true that Elvis Presley was really kind of like the first of his kind, as far as being a performer, a recording artist, a sex symbol, all the things that he kind of spearheaded, single-handedly, one person, that subsequently led to what we now know as probably like the boy band, or, the development of that framework, how a machine like that can work and make money and sell records and, getting the photography right, all of it, just all of it, getting the songs right, the public image, touring, public appearances, costumes even. I have this idea of Elvis Presley that's more of like a blueprint rather than a performer, that he was copied by so many other artists after him that he's kind of, considered the king of rock and roll, right? Well, there's a reason why we consider Elvis Presley, general consensus that Elvis Presley is the king of rock and roll. And, if he spearheaded all these other elements of stardom and popular music success, why wouldn't he also be the first guy to find a way out of all of it, but yet still enjoy some of the money and regain his anonymity and his private life, okay? The best way to do that would be to fake your own death, right? Which sounds kind of like far-fetched and, I don't know, unlikely, like you wouldn't be able to pull it off. But I kind of think that he might have, and he would serve as the blueprint for artists that come after him, a blueprint for finding that trap door to get out of that lifestyle and re-enter a life of privacy and anonymity, right? It doesn't sound too crazy when you really think about it. And if anybody really had the money to do something like that, Elvis was definitely wealthy enough to handle, paying off a few people to help him fake his own death. So I guess I'll clarify right here. I'm not necessarily saying I think Elvis did that, okay? Because I'm not sure, okay? But he probably, if you ask me really honestly, he probably did. He certainly could have. So he probably did. And, maybe there's a reason why there are these people that claim to see him. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe it's the truth. And also, maybe not. Maybe they're just out of their gourd. But, it's like when Prince died, Michael Jackson died. I don't know. There's a part of me that just kind of lets my mind wander a little bit. And I just kind of wonder sometimes if maybe, Elvis kind of started this idea of what happens posthumously, after the artist dies. Like, what kind of revenue is generated from that artist after they die? I mean, the sums of money are just like telephone numbers, they're just, it's crazy, the crazy amounts of money, especially like an artist like Jim Morrison or Elvis or Tupac Shakur, even Prince, Michael Jackson, these names, these people that were just absolutely huge. Their careers were just global, and they probably, had to forfeit almost every element of privacy in their lives. Yeah, they made the money, yeah, they had the fame, but maybe, especially with an artist like Prince, sometimes I really wonder, like, it's reported that his body was just destroyed, from years and years, decades of dancing every night on stage in heels, jumping off of amplifier stacks, and landing on his feet and doing the splits, and just, night after night of this, he had problems with his bones, with his joints and his muscles. And, maybe, you have to kind of at least ask the question, maybe there's a trap door for artists like that where they can bail, when they reach that point where they really think they can't go on anymore, or they don't want to, they choose not to. And, maybe they make a phone call, there's a lawyer, there's a company, somewhere that no one talks about that handles this kind of thing, the paperwork and all the formalities and all the things that need to happen in order to button up one's existence on this planet and close it up forever, and I don't know, I guess lately I think about this more, this idea or this possibility more now, because what you're starting to see happen is all of a sudden there's this vaulted material that's being released by these artists that have died, but where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? And is it lucrative somehow to have something like, even like rumors of your, faking your death? Is there like do they profit off of that even somehow? Is it like the kind of thing that once you get a machine, okay, like Elvis, started, once you turn that machine on and it goes full tilt boogie and it's global, I mean, maybe it's like there is just no telling how much money can be made. I mean, it's just all about money, and I don't know, doesn't it make sense? Like, there's no formal retirement plan, for a world famous, and we're talking world famous artist, global celebrity musician, okay? There's no retirement plan for them. So they probably, somewhere over the past, 60 years, somebody probably hatched a plan on how to pull this off. If you want to retire, but you still want to collect money, the apparatus that ran your career can still continue to operate. Those people can stay on payroll. You're just not making any new music anymore. or you're just not appearing in public anymore. It's understood that you have died, okay? Now, maybe they actually died, so I have to concede to that too, right? Maybe they've actually died. Maybe Prince died, okay? And maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. Time will tell. I don't know. Maybe somewhere down the line, okay? Let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that this is a real possibility that celebrities can fake their death and live in privacy. Okay, let's pretend that's a real possibility. Would it surprise you? Okay, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if somewhere down the line, one of those celebrities, whether it's Elvis or Michael Jackson or Prince or Tupac or, the list goes on, right? Jim Morrison. What if one of them re-emerged back into the public eye, right? Resurrected, right? And made it known that they had faked their own death. Wouldn't that be amazing, yet not surprising to you? I mean, to me, that's how I see it, right? Like, someone will innovate that even, the idea of re-emergence, Who would it be? Who would be the first recording artist to have faked their death and then later, at some later date, maybe decades later, reveal that they never died, they were alive, and, etc., etc. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I mean, it would be shocking, and it would be, pretty interesting to see happen. But it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. What do you think? I wonder. I wish I could hear your answers. I wish I could hear your answers. A little food for thought, though, huh? If not anything else, just something to consider, right? Because that's what we do here on the Singularity Podcast. We exchange ideas and we think about things. That's all we're doing. Just thinking about things. Possibilities, right? Right. I wanted to talk about this too, okay? The other day, I had this idea, just like on a whim, just a whim, to go onto social media, right? And pose a question, just a simple question to the general public. And my question was, who is the most famous person that you have ever met? Really simple question, Who is the most famous person that you have ever met? And like I said, I just typed it in, I hit send, just on a whim, just to see what would happen. And lo and behold, okay, this was just totally shocking to me, and it was hilarious too. The response that I got to this question was incredible, okay? I mean, responses to this question, okay, who is the most famous person that you have ever met, just came pouring in, and it went all day long, and even overnight I was still getting comments. In fact, I'm still getting comments about this question, and oh my gosh, I just laughed so hard. It was like all day long. I couldn't keep up with the number of people that were responding. And I couldn't help but wonder, why the response was as dramatic as it was to this question. Just asking a simple question, It's hilarious to me. And it's interesting too, because it speaks to the human condition, but it also speaks to several other issues all at the same time. I mean, it does touch on a little bit of that narcissism thing, which is kind of more on the negative end of things. I'll push that one aside. I'm not going to focus on that so much. But it got me to thinking that, everyone, absolutely every human being on the planet, okay, has a story to tell. You ask a question and you get an answer. People want to share their experiences, and in huge numbers. It was just all day long the response to this question. It's fascinating to me. Fascinating. I think that, if I had not become a musician, okay, that maybe if I had been the scholarly type and I had decided to go on to college and maybe even grad school and go on to my doctorate or something, I think I probably would have been an anthropologist, and studying cultures and, social behavior and just things like that. I guess behavioral sciences, I'm familiar a little bit with those things, and I would say, okay, I can say with certainty, okay, that my interest tends to go more in that direction. When I'm not making music and doing music stuff, or maybe in some ways even when I am making music and I'm doing stuff like that, my disposition is such where I'm really interested in people, and not in this, lovey-dovey way. It's kind of just a scientific way, a scientific worldview almost, but humanitarian too, I guess, okay, to a large degree, okay, not critical, really, but fascinated with society and how people think and how they act and why they think what they think and why they act the way they do, and the interactions. All those things are fascinating to me, both the positive and the negative. It's just something I've always been intrigued by, probably since I was a little kid, observing the world around me and, trying to figure it out. I suppose to a lot of people that probably sounds really boring, but I would posit to this discussion that even something like this Singularity Podcast is an extension of that thinking, Maybe I should have, maybe I should have bailed on the whole music thing, right? And gone off into that academic path, Probably not. I'd probably be just as stupid as I am right now. But I probably would make more money. Which isn't saying much, okay? But anyway, with this question that I asked and the answers that I got, it was really interesting to me how different each answer was, from each person, Some people were sarcastic, some people were wide open and just, really ready to share what their experience was and in truth, and some were really gracious and some were really negative. A lot of people have met a lot of famous people, and their reaction or their interaction with these celebrities or whatever you want to call them were all very different. And a lot of these folks were received, very differently by these celebrities whom they looked up to, maybe they admired, and, that poses another question is what is it about celebrities that makes us feel that they're somehow better than we are? I believe that just because somebody is famous, okay, just because somebody is a celebrity, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not just normal people, okay, that they live a life and they go to the bathroom and they eat food and they pick their nose and they do all the things that everybody else does, okay? But I have to say that there is something different about somebody who is famous and somebody who is a celebrity or whatever, or recognized for what they do, you know, maybe internationally, okay? There is a difference. And, you know, one of the guys who answered my question, who is the most famous person that you have ever met, his attitude was really kind of different than everyone else's. I think he was somebody who had worked in the music industry. You know, he had dealt with a lot of, you know, celebrities and famous people. So he was jaded and, you know, kind of like, you know, I've met a lot of famous people and none of it really matters. You know, they're just normal people, you know. That was his response. But my response to him, okay, was, yes, that is true, okay? When somebody is famous, somebody is internationally known for something that they do maybe well, or, you know, particularly well, or maybe not so much. They're still known internationally. Meeting someone that is internationally famous, okay, international fame would be what? On some level, an admirable quality, you know, something to aspire to, right? It's usually a sign that you're good at what you're doing, or that what you're doing is reaching a lot of people, right? So right off the bat, there is a certain amount of acceptance, at least in my book, to this idea that, you know, somebody who is famous is, in a lot of ways, somebody to admire, okay? And meeting someone that you admire is not the same as meeting someone who is a stranger, okay, that you've never heard of or seen before. There's a big difference. And it doesn't mean that they're less human or more human or whatever. They're just different. It's just different. Now, another point that I wanted to talk about with this particular subject was, I found it interesting, okay, that I asked this question, okay, who is the most famous person that you have ever met? And even though I got about, you know, 250 comments or something and counting on this question, you know, 250 responses to this question from people from all over the world, okay? Only one of them, okay, only one of those people asked me the same question back. My question back at me, okay? Who is the most famous person that I have ever met? Okay? And of course, you know, I don't know. I'm from a small town, so, you know, I'm not from New York City or Los Angeles or Tokyo or something like that. I'm from a small town on the north coast of Lake Erie, okay? So my opportunity to meet celebrities was rather limited. However, okay, I did have the opportunity to meet a handful of people that at least I would consider famous or celebrities or people that I admired, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you my response to the question, who is the most famous person that I have ever met? Okay, well, I'm not exactly sure who the most famous person is, okay, but I have had the opportunity to meet a few, you know, famous people or celebrities or at least people that I admired, okay. I can tell you this, I met King Diamond once, the singer, and his entire band. Okay, I guess like at the time, I was a really big King Diamond fan, and his drummer, his name is Mickey D. He played for Motorhead after he played for King Diamond, and now I think he plays for the Scorpions. But he was like a hero to me when I was a young and up and coming drummer. He just was like the king. I still consider him to be probably the best living rock drummer on the planet. But I had the opportunity to sit down with him, which was kind of cool, and just kind of talk. We talked drums and music and life, and what a awesome opportunity for a guy my age. And I got to talk to King Diamond too, and he was really cool to me. He was really kind. He actually gave me the towel that he had wiped his makeup off, right, on this towel, and he gave it to me, and somewhere around here I still have it. But it was just really cool. That sounds gross, I guess, now. But it was just really cool and done in the spirit of like graciousness, and I was just a young kid, so that was extra cool that these famous guys, were just kind of being that open and just that cool to me, because they didn't have to be. Let's see, I also had the opportunity to play a few shows with the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, a band from Boston, Massachusetts, a ska band. And at the time, they were just starting to break nationally, and they invited my band that I was playing in to go along with them for a few dates. And even after that first tour they were doing, whenever they came back to Cleveland, we were asked to be their opener, because we had established a relationship, and it was nice. We got a chance to hang out with them and talk to them, and Dickie Barrett, the lead singer from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, was extremely cool and easy to get along with. Real funny group of guys, but also extremely, and let me tell you, extremely talented musicians in that band. I mean, they were great and really cool. Let's see what else. Some of the stuff I think I've actually talked about before in my Snowflake 33 podcasts. But let me see. I had the opportunity, now this is cool. I had the opportunity to meet one of my biggest heroes, okay? His name is Wayne Hussey. He's the lead singer from the band The Mission UK. And when they came through Cleveland on the Carved in Sand tour, I had the opportunity to meet him and talk to him. And he was just so down to earth and so cool and answered all my questions. And, I was a weirdo, I was a total fanboy of the Mission UK. So I had all these really, obscure questions and detailed questions and these things I wanted to know. And he was just so cool about answering all my questions and talking to me and, asking me about my life and what it was like. And another little cool kind of thing is Wayne Hussey was from England, and I was obviously from America, and he was smoking these cigarettes that were called Silk Cut cigarettes, and I was smoking Marlboros, and throughout the course of our discussion, we wound up trading our cigarettes with each other, which I thought was kind of cool because, I had never even heard of Silk Cut cigarettes before, but, they're from my hero, so it was just kind of a really cool exchange, a really small kind of detail, but something that kind of stayed with me, for the rest of my life, really, because as I'm talking about it right now, I realize, it was actually pretty damn cool that he was that down to earth and that willing to reach out and be connected, with this putz from Cleveland, Ohio, pretty cool guy and just a phenomenal singer, phenomenal songwriter. So I'm proud to say I had the opportunity to meet really one of my biggest heroes. Now, if I could have met Bono, that would have been pretty damn good. But I never met Bono, but I did have one time the opportunity to talk to Adam Clayton, the bass player from U2, on the telephone on a radio show. I called in and I got to actually talk to him and ask a question or something. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's the closest I ever got to talking to U2 or anywhere near U2, you know. But I remember it and I did it, so I mentioned it. Also, one time when I lived in Washington, D.C., I ran into Newt Gingrich, the politician, and him and I actually we actually had a conversation. Now, I gotta say, you know, he's not my favorite politician, all right? I disagree with a lot of what he's all about, but not everything. And we had a really nice conversation, so make of that whatever you will. Let's see, who else really quick did I get a chance to meet? I had a chance to meet Gibby Haynes from Butthole Surfers. I had a chance to meet Marilyn Manson. I met Karen Paris from the Innocence Mission. She's a singer for the Innocence Mission, and just one of my biggest influences. Oh, just the nicest person, and not bad looking either, but she was like so kind to me. You know, it was amazing. It was like we had known each other forever, you know. Extremely kind. Actually, her and I wound up after after they left Ohio on their tour, you know, her and I wound up actually corresponding via snail mail for a while. I wouldn't say we were friends, but it was just kind of an interesting, brief relationship, you know? And she was just, and she still is, like one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life, and one of the best singer-songwriters that I know of, okay? Totally unsung talent, you know? Well, I shouldn't say totally. There's a group of people, however small, on the planet that appreciate the work of the Innocence Mission and Karen Paris, okay? And I'm one of them. Huge fan of the Innocence Mission. Let's see, who else did I have a chance to meet? I met Machine Head. I met Corrosion of Conformity. I met Jello Biafra. Mushroom Head, obviously. They're from the town that I'm from. Integrity, the hardcore band. I got to talk to those guys. I got to talk to Danzig and Chuck Biscuits, the drummer from Danzig, who was another huge influence on me as a drummer. You know, just I thought he was the berries, man. That guy was awesome. He still is awesome, but back in the day, oh my gosh. I saw that dude drumming for Danzig, and I think he eventually went on to play for Social Distortion. But I saw him back in the day with Danzig, and I saw him play, and I'm like, man, that is exactly what I want to do. I want to be that guy, you know? Let's see, who else have I met? I've met Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails, obviously, from the same town I'm from. You know, I had the opportunity to meet Ralph Nader, the politician, and the Politico, you know, whatever you want to call him. I'm not sure if he's a politician necessarily anymore, but he's a hero of mine. The guy's quite a remarkable human being, and he was a bit busy when I met him, and not really able to talk. I think he was maybe a little bit uncomfortable. He was under pressure time-wise to get going somewhere or something. So the conversation was brief, but it was cool, and he was gracious and cool. So there you go. There's my list of people. I'm sure there are more names that I could think of, but I can't remember them all right now. I'm getting a little older, you know, and it gets harder to remember things like that. I'm sure after I finish this podcast, they'll all come pouring back into my memory. But anyway, So there you go. I thought this whole idea of, asking a simple question, and oh my gosh, the response I got just kind of really shocked me. I just did not think it was going to get the response that it did. Social media, it's such a strange thing. We live in a strange world, don't we? I mean, especially if you live in the United States. I mean, we are just living through the strangest time, You can't avoid thinking about it, and you can't avoid talking about it, especially if you're a citizen of the US, because it's just front and center everywhere you look right now. It's so hot right now. Politics in America is so hot right now, and it's worrisome to a certain degree. I don't really like to talk about it too much, because then it becomes like this political conversation, and I'm not interested in that. But if we kind of try to view through the lens of, anthropology or social studies, right? It really is quite remarkable. I don't think we've ever had a situation like we have right now in American politics. I think it's unprecedented. And I think about it a lot, and my wife and I both talk about it a lot, like I said, because you can't avoid it. It's just everywhere you look. And everybody has an opinion, and there's just so much turmoil and so much division in the United States right now. I'm not sure how that reads, across the pond. Like with you, Stu, I'm not sure how much of it you're getting, or what exactly you're getting over there in Europe, filtered through the news media apparatus, that exists. I'm not sure what you get. Maybe you can tell me later on. I'm sure you probably will be willing to. But it's just something that, like I said, is worrisome right now. Not really sure where things are headed in America right now. I would imagine that when the presidential elections roll around in 2020, it will be unlike anything we have ever seen before on the planet. I mean, I think that the next presidential election is going to just be rabid, and scores and scores of people that are just so divided. It's going to be like a boxing match. It's going to be, if I were to guess, it's going to be dirty, and it's going to be, it's going to be knockdown, drag out politics, mudslinging, all kinds of stuff. You can just feel it coming. It's already like, even since the very first days of the Trump administration, oh my goodness, it has been just constant warfare, between Democrats and Republicans, especially on the extreme left and the extreme right. I mean, it has not died down. In fact, if anything, it's just increasing. And wow, like I said, by the time the next presidential election rolls around, I can't even imagine really what it's going to be like. But I can promise you that it's not going to be quiet. There's going to be a lot of action there. That's something to think about, I guess, especially if you live in the United States, because what does it mean? What does that mean for America? I don't know. There's no way I could know. There is no way. But make of that whatever you want. And pay attention too, I guess, because if you stay tuned, you're going to probably see a lot of fireworks. Oh, anyway, so let's see. I'll probably wrap this up. I can't think of anything else I really wanted to talk about, offhand today. So, with that, this is Mike Bostwick from Pipe Choir Records signing off. And remember, folks, if you want to keep what you've got to give it away. Take it easy.